Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Corey O'Connor. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at DoControl. Very excited today to talk about modernizing data loss prevention and CASB to secure SaaS data with DoControl. This is essentially our high-level 101 level presentation. I think as a security vendor, when we talk to customers and prospects, of course, they want to put us into some sort of a category or segment. At DoControl, we're a SaaS data access security company. So hopefully, at the end of today's webinar, you'll get a clear understanding as to how we, fit into these categories and segments, and really what we do at DoControl and how we add value as it relates to securing SaaS data. Let's go ahead and just cover a couple of house cleaning items. Really, the only thing here is if you have any questions. So obviously, we're going to go through some slides. I'm going to run through a solution demonstration, and then if you have any questions, just input them into the little chat box on the right-hand side of the screen there. Of course, we'll save some time at the end to go through them. So without further delay, let's go ahead and I'll share my screen. Let's go through some slides. All right. Okay, great. Before we get into it, I do want to just highlight DoControl, who we are as a company, how we started, where we're headed, for those that are unfamiliar with DoControl. So we were born out of the COVID pandemic, so established back in June of 2020. The mission statement you can see listed on the slide is to help organizations prevent data breaches in the most popular SaaS applications and find the perfect balance between security and business enablement. We are funded by investors such as RTP Global, Stage One Ventures, Cardamom Capital, and most recently Insight Partners. As you can also see in the slide, we just recently announced our Series B, so 30 million. And then we're also, CrowdStrike is an investor. They're a technology partner and they're a customer. So they have an early stage startup fund. They've invested twice in DoControl. So we're certainly excited to be affiliated with CrowdStrike, but also have them as a customer and technology alliance partner. So again, very high level stuff, just a little bit of a background on DoControl as a company. Let's just quickly talk about the current state of SaaS. I think, this is standard runway slide material here, but to help set the stage, I think anybody that's listening to this webinar would agree that the SaaS market is growing. You're even seeing a shift from traditional infrastructure as a service. The amount spent on IaaS is starting to be pushed towards SaaS. This statistic here, 200 billion by 2024, came from a McKinsey report. Nearly represent 1/3 of the overall enterprise software market. Again, when you think about the pandemic and the change in the workforce, most organizations are structured in some sort of a hybrid or remote working environment. One of the tools or technologies to help support that new working environment was SaaS applications, and organizations are using these applications to drive their business. So SaaS is growing, and what we're trying to do is secure SaaS utilization, secure your users, the identities, and do it in a way that scales in line with utilization. Applications, when you consider the number of applications, the average enterprise or larger organization, 2,000 employees or more, is just in under 200. So again, it's a scalable problem. There's a large number of identities accessing, sharing, manipulating sensitive data and files within these applications. And if you have 200 applications and all the different users and all the different data and files, it becomes a problem. Data breaches continue to be an issue. Insider risk, insider threat is top of mind. Third-party risk, again, something that's also challenged organizations following the pandemic and changing the way in which we all do work. There's also a big change in job changes. I mean, there's a notable situation where employees are leaving organizations at a record high rate, right? The Great Resignation, or the big leave, or the big resignation, whatever you want to call it. It's undeniable. People are leaving, they're changing jobs, they're resigning from the workforce altogether. And again, another way to support that gap that is left is to rely on third-party vendors. So again, the challenge here is it's introducing a new user, new identity that is accessing potentially sensitive data and files within these applications. So this is, again, trying to level set the current state of SaaS. This came from a report. So we publish an annual report on data access risk exposure. And these are just some of the interesting numbers, data points that I pulled from that report. 20% of assets are shared internally. You have 15,000 external collaborators, somewhere between 90,000 and 1 million assets shared externally. You've got, again, 3,000 third-party companies that you're partnering with, and 10 million assets in shared applications. Again, the risk is scaling in line with the utilization of these applications. So just consider the number of users. You've got your internal employees, you've got contractors, you've got third-party vendors that are accessing nearly 200 applications on average. And again, when you look at within each application, like look at Google Drive, right? You have a significant number of users that have shared drives, they have personal drives, there's files and data that exists within these drives that is accessed, it's manipulated, it's shared internally to, potentially to users that shouldn't have access to it. It's shared externally, same situation where, you share files with a third party vendor. What happens if they then share those files with third-party contractors, which creates a fourth-party challenge? So again, the challenge here is the identity, right? The identities that are accessing the data and files within this ecosystem. It's a problem, and let's talk about how organizations or technologies are trying to address this problem. The first way is looking at the native functionality within each application. So it's decentralized, it's inconsistent, and it doesn't scale. So this is obvious. If you're going to manually try to implement controls, data access controls within each specific application, all of the features and functionality within each application, they vary dramatically. So you have the inconsistent controls. It doesn't scale because if you're requiring headcount to focus on implementing policy across each different application and again, think about all the different users that you're having to manage. It's not a good use of resources. And today there's a significant shortage of, IT and security talent. So doing this in a native way within each application is not the right approach. When you look at CASB, or Cloud Access Security Broker, again, this is a technology that when it first arrived a decade or so ago, it was great. Cloud was being adopted at a high rate. Security, of course, was paramount, and it was a challenge back in those days. But fast forward to today, implementing access control policies is difficult within CASB. And if you talk to anybody that has a CASB solution, they're very complex. They're difficult to manage. In terms of the remediation, the policies are typically limited to hard-coded. So you can't get really granular and flexible in the data access control policies that you want to roll out because you are limited to what's available. And going back to the provider and request enhancements and changes. As anyone knows, a feature request is a timely thing. And yeah, it's difficult to manage. And you have proxy, you have inline, API mode. Again, not ideal in terms of management, not ideal in terms of actually reducing risk in a seamless way. Data loss prevention, or DLP. Again, this is a technology that's kind of a dinosaur. It's been around for quite some time. But that said, the concept of trying to prevent data loss is obviously still very important. But the problem is trying to address this with traditional DLP solutions. They don't work in SaaS. They struggle with unstructured data and file types within SaaS applications. Again, anybody that's using DLP will admittedly say that there's a huge number of false positives that are generated, and oftentimes they're just black hole. They don't even look at those detections because they're inundated with these false positives. So, and again, the last point, DLP is typically focused on endpoint and network. It's not focused on SaaS. We look at SaaS as the new egress channel. Organizations are using SaaS applications to enable their employees to share data and files. So the days of manually uploading a Word document, emailing it to internal users, to external users, I mean, that's going away. And again, when you look at Slack and Google Drive and Box and Dropbox and Microsoft Teams and all of these different ways in which you can share data, DLP does not support those SaaS application environments effectively. And then SSPM, I mean, look, misconfigurations in the cloud and in general is a huge security challenge. The issue with SSPM is they don't focus on any of the data access risk remediation. And that's really the uniqueness of DoControl. There's a number of different SaaS security vendors out there. I think, it's a great market. There's a lot of greenfield opportunities within SaaS security. The challenge is they're all focused on different things. And really none of these vendors are tackling the automated risk remediation piece of it. And that's the big, differentiator, the big value driver here at DoControl. In terms of the opportunity, again, the way most organizations are structured today, you have an identity provider, right? Okta, Google Workspace, OneLogin, Azure AD, et cetera. These solutions are helping add security at the identity layer, where you need to provide the appropriate permissions, privileges, entitlements for each user for them to be able to be effective in their role, right? And the challenge there is you have users that are now working remotely and in Starbucks, or some of them are going back into the office. So you need to provide these identities from whichever device that they're leveraging, a secure connection to the systems and applications that they're trying to connect to in order to do their job. So this is kind of foundational least privilege enforcement. Now, once they are provided that secure connection, they've logged in, they have access to these applications, the problem is, it's insider risk is a piece of it. What they then do with that access, there's always going to be a risk. You have negligent insiders, you have malicious insiders, you have compromised, insiders or users. So there's not enough granularity in terms of access controls that's closer to the actual data and securing the actual data and files that are being accessed by these identities. And that's the opportunity that we have. And what this creates is unmanageable access. We call it unmanageable access. You have all these different personas. You have temporary employees, you have contractors, maybe even customers that are, you're sharing files and data with, certainly former employees and third parties that you no longer have a business relationship with. This is exactly that the opportunity for us to DoControl is to reduce the risk exposure, the overexposure, reduce the risk of data exfiltration within these application environments. Again, think about all the different users that are accessing your data. When you look at Google Drive as an example, Google is a business enablement tool, right? Google Drive. They're trying to make it as easy as possible to exchange files and data. That's what the solution is for. Security is not a priority for them. And just like infrastructure as a service, SaaS is a shared responsibility. The service provider is making their service secure. It has to be inherently secure or secure enough to a certain level. And then the actual consumer of that service, how they use that tool in terms of security, it's on them to make sure that their users are leveraging the tool in a secure way. And that's where DoControl comes in. And that's why organizations are choosing to partner with us to, it's all about securing the business, but enabling it as well. We don't want security to be a blocker, an obstacle, something that bogs down productivity. We want to make sure that our customers are using DoControl in a secure way so they can drive their business forward. How does it work? So the solution is an event-driven platform. It's completely agentless. There's no software installations. What we're doing is we're subscribing to all of your critical business applications. So Google Drive, Microsoft, Salesforce, Teams, Box, Dropbox, Slack, so on and so forth. And what we're doing is we're integrating with these applications, and we're taking the metadata and we're leveraging that metadata as sources, right? So that's what enables the solution to be an event-driven platform. So we leverage the context, the business context of every user interaction within your environment to add value to some of what you've already invested in, your HR application, your SIM and SOAR, your EDR, your IDP. A common use case example is HR, right? If you're using Bamboo HR or Workday, something like that, when there's a termination or somebody resigns, there's an employment status change that takes place. And what DoControl can do is by integrating with Bamboo HR, once that employment status change is initiated, it's automatically fed into DoControl, where we can, of course, you have to create the policy, and we'll show how you do this in the demo, but you can create policies that will sever the access for that employee or specific applications or specific files immediately. And this is something, when we meet with prospective customers, we give them that visibility into all the different file types that have been shared to private email accounts. So it's not uncommon for employees to take data with them when they resign. I think everyone's guilty of it at some point. Most cases, it's not sensitive data, but it's proprietary information. It's information that should be left behind with the company. So there's risk there. But again, this is adding value, taking the business context within your SaaS application environment, and then adding value into your existing stack. And that's what we're doing, right? Foundational data access controls. Visibility is the first piece. First and foremost, you need to know who is within your environment, what they're doing with the access that they have, and you have complete visibility into not only the internal users, identities and entities, but also your third-party users. So it's not just your employees, it's your third parties, it's whomever has access to the files and data that's being, again, accessed and manipulated and shared within the environment. Continuous monitoring. Again, this is critical. You need to be able to monitor and control what's being done within the environment. A lot of what we do is automated remediation, but having the ability to, the self-service tools and the ability to revoke access, change ownership over file types, and take manual action if necessary. That's critical. And then thirdly is the remediation piece. So at DoControl, we call them security workflows. It's essentially data access policy that you would implement consistently throughout all of the different applications. You can do it by application or by use case within your environment. And you're doing it from a single secure control point. Thinking back to the decentralized environment with trying to manage each application natively, you have one solution, DoControl, to manage the access and secure the actual data within your environment. And we've certainly prioritized, the user experience, especially for an early stage startup. I mean, the solution is super easy to use, and we'll show this in the demo. But also, we recognize that there is a shortage of IT and security talent out there. So we want to automate what should be automated. Of course, we leave things for manual intervention, but we want to make sure it's done in the absolute easiest way possible. Okay, so let's do a solution demo. Give me 1 second here. I need to pull up my screen. Okay, so this is the DoControl service. This is the console. I want to just expand this a bit. I want to do just a high-level overview of the actual platform. So the first thing we do is we integrate, right, with your critical applications. You can see some of them listed here. What we're doing is we're requesting read and write permissions within these applications. It's through OAuth, and yeah, for the visibility is obviously read. If you want to implement enforcement actions, then we're going to require write functionality. But onboarding the applications is easy. I mean, some of them are done in a few clicks, others are done in 10, 20 minutes. Either way, it's point and click, super easy. But that's the first piece, is you onboard all of these applications that you want to manage within the DoControl service. And from there, again, you can see all the events listed. You can add filters, you can review individual users. We have the JSON file with additional details like the IP address and again, more granularity in terms of each event and activity. But the thing to note here is we're aggregating every single event that takes place within the application environment. What we have here is kind of your risk posture, your organizational posture. Again, this is our demo environment, so it's a bit slower. But here you can see a very high level kind of executive dashboard view in terms of asset exposure, the shared drives that are of higher risk, some of the security alerts that have been flagged, remediation actions, some of the top exposed private accounts. You can see all the detail here. This is, again, kind of your executive level dashboard that presents a good overview and a good kind of risk posture within the environment. From here, you can go over to the actual asset inventory. Again, kind of similar to the events. Here you can click on each specific application that's under management. You can click on each individual user, right? So if here we want to review this individual user's activity. So again, this is the monitoring piece that we covered earlier. And again, you can take quick action. So if something is clearly concerning and something is violating some type of a policy, but you haven't created a automated policy and you need to manually intervene, we have these quick actions. So you select on any individual event here, and you can, again, change the file type, the file owner. You can revoke access. We give you the self-service ability to take manual action as necessary. But what I wanted to do was focus on the security workflows. So this is something that's still in beta. We launched it a few months ago. And this is really, when you think of DLP and CASB, I mean, this is taking DLP and CASB and it's kind of a modern approach to it. And hopefully you'll see that as we go through some of these policies that we create. But let's just do a quick overview of the dashboard here. So here you have a list of policies that were already created, but you have two options. You can start from scratch, which is literally creating your own homegrown policy. You can see over here on the left-hand side all the different notification, remediation steps. The DoControl solution is a no-code, low-code platform. So each of these steps you can drag and drop. You can connect. You have conditional looping, where if you want to do a file scan for PII, it's very granular. You can create extremely robust workflow policies here, and it's all low code, no code, right? Because we're querying all the different events and we're integrating with the IDP, you can create policy based on individual actors, groups, domains that's fed in through your IDP provider. And then again, build out the policy that aligns with whatever your security program requirements are. So this is creating one from scratch. You have the ability to start from a playbook. So our development team has done an amazing job working with our customer base, as well as kind of common use cases that are required. But what you see here is a listing of policies that are pretty common with our customers, right? So they've either requested them or the product team has created them because we know that these will be used. And what you can see here is a pre-established playbook. And similarly, as what we had just seen, everything in here is fully customizable. Just because we've created this template, it's adjustable. So you can make whatever changes you need to make, and you can add in additional remediation steps or notification steps. So this is really just giving you a blueprint on how to start so you don't have to start from square one. We can kind of give you what you need to make it easier, right? So I have a couple of workflow policies that I wanted to demonstrate. So the first one is, let's talk about sharing, right? File sharing within Google. So here I have a demo, very simple Google Doc, right? It's a sensitive file. Let's say that it contains sensitive data, but this is something that is necessary for a user to do their job. So if we go back here, this is a very robust policy, right? But we want to enable the user to share this file. So, and you can see here, the user is me, Corey at DoControl. So if I go here and let's say that I want to share this file with Corey at Gmail. Let's say that this is an approved third party that I am working with, and I want to provide access. So yes, we want to share it. And through the notification here, we have an automated notification within the policy that's going to notify by webhook, right? And essentially I'll get notified by the Slack do bot, right? Here we go. You shared the demo test doc with Corey at Gmail. Are you sure you want to keep sharing? So this is a great benefit, right? What we do at DoControl is we try to integrate the actual solution with the users, where people, process, technology are standard pillars to a security program. You can educate your employees to be more security aware and don't click on phishing emails and all of these sorts of things. But in terms of reducing your risk exposure and file and data overexposure, we can automatically notify individuals about their sharing, and they can revoke access and they can continue to share access if there's a business need for it. But when you think about Google Drive, there's no unshare button, right? Again, it's a solution that is enabling sharing and revoking access. Even after somebody's been terminated, oftentimes those links are still available to depending on the organizational settings, they can be available indefinitely, right? So one of the great benefits of the solution is to continually improve your security by notifying the individuals, and you can set how often the individuals are notified. You don't have to do this for every single user. I mean, maybe there's certain groups, like folks that work within finance, that have a higher likelihood to have access to sensitive information. You can create these policies based on at the identity level, at the individual user, and kind of enforce least privileged at a more granular level at the actual data and file layer versus at the identity layer. So this is just one use case to really show how we can notify the user and we can support secure sharing. But you can see here, this is a pretty robust policy. And what you'll note on the right-hand side is a wait notification. So in some of these approvals, if somebody doesn't respond, or let's say that you loop in a notification where you email the security team or the line of business manager, you can have that rerouted to those individuals if the actor isn't responding within a timely manner. Or you can just put a timestamp on it where after 30 days, we're automatically going to revoke access to that third-party user, right? So the granularity that you can implement into these workflow policies is significant. And you can build these out. You can keep these as simple or as robust as you need to. And as I mentioned before, everything in here is low code, no code. You can drag and drop. All of the events are listed here, right? So you can pull in all the different, collaborators, the share ID drive. You can set whatever conditions that you need to in a low code, no code way. And it's all drag and drop right into the canvas here. So the other example is, I mentioned this earlier during the presentation, is preventing third parties from sharing sensitive data with a fourth party, right? And you can see here that we have a webhook that's going to notify a specific Slack channel about that sharing or that attempted share. And this is done in near real time. So what I want to do is I'm going to share this customer file, right, with, again, the approved third party, that is Corey O'Connor at Gmail. So here I provide access to that user, and then here I'm going to log in as Corey O'Connor. I now have access because it was given to me. So here you can see all the different users that have access to this customer file. So what I'm going to do now that I'm logged in as Corey O'Connor at Gmail, which is the approved third party, let's say that I want to take this customer file and share this with a fourth party, which would be another email that I'm using. I'm going to share it out. And again, this is a demo environment, so there's going to be a little bit of a lag here. But what we can see is we have a dedicated SaaS security incidents channel. And what will happen is this notification will appear. We'll just give it another minute. Otherwise, I can click on a previous attempt from earlier today. And what we'll see are the event details. We'll see the actual sharing attempt. We'll see that the policy was activated and enforced, where this user was not provided access to the file, right? So this is all done in an automated way. And here we go. We can see view the details. Here we can see, again, external share. The actor was the approved third party attempting to share it to the fourth party. We can see here that this policy was enforced. And then we can see that the user, the fourth party, does not have access to it, right? So that's a clear indicator that the policy worked and the attempted share was blocked, okay? So yes, I mean, it's that simple, right? You can see in the security workflows, the flexibility, the granularity, the simplicity of some of these workflows. I mean, this is extremely easy to use. The notification, right, to continually